Thanks a lot, everyone. Happy to be here at AMEC. So we're going to be talking about a bit of a different perspective, maybe than often we see here vendor perspectives, different solutions. So we're coming from the user side, hoping to share a bit with you our journey through, from data Puddles to data lake. And let's get started. So my name is Edgar, and I work in the European Commission for basically the monitoring and evaluation team. And I'm here with Alex, who has been supporting the team very much and is the scientist and the wizard behind the scenes on helping us build up our capacity. So a quick introduction then to who we are and what perhaps makes the European Commission a bit of a specific environment. So obviously, one challenge we have when it comes to our comms and our public persona is that we're in a very much multilingual and multi-country environment, both from the perspective of our member states, the 27 member states, but of course also in terms of the audience we have. So everything we do needs to adapt to very different environments, needs to take into account a lot of different sensitivities. That also translates into the type of communications that we have as the European Commission. Obviously, we have a wide range of types of communication, from official midday press briefings that are the formal line to take, to social media comms, to campaigns, to thematic communications across different departments, aimed at stakeholders, aimed at citizens, to citizens' engagement events. So there's a very wide range of comms types of actions. And as a consequence of that, there's a lot of data being produced from that, all in a very different shape, in a different granularity, different quality, different level of measurability. And in relation to that, of course, we have a big challenge when it comes to, how do we actually govern that data? How do we use it? How do we turn a large volume of different types of data into actionable intelligence and insight for our management? So the starting point for us, let's say a typical use case would have been something similar to this, where there is a report, a request from management that we need to look at, for example, Europe Day. It's a big, important event for us, obviously. It involves a lot of different communication actions, from on-the-ground events to social media across a network of social media accounts that we manage ourselves as the European Commission, but also partnerships with different stakeholders. And collating all that data, as you can imagine, was quite of a challenge. So this maybe would have been a typical kind of pathway to get from, management needs to know how things went, to producing a product that is actually actionable. And all the different challenges that come with us that we already mentioned. So that was basically what we looked at and said, there has to be a better way. And the solution, or at least the pathway we chose to take, was towards what we call a single source of truth. So the starting point is a technological one, but I think what we'll try to talk about a lot today is that the technology is enabler for a different way of decision making, for a different positioning also for the team. But the starting point is the single source of truth. So basically that's the data lake. It's the platform where we try to put together all of this different data, as much as we can at least, collate it, automate it, document it, store it, put it together in one place, make it scalable, make it reusable, and then enable that as a key input for other products, for other decisions. And here is where Alex can tell us.
Can come in.
Yes.
So you can hear me as well? Great. So it's me, Alex. So new haircut, no glasses, but we will go through together this journey. We will explore a little bit how this journey started. So of course, in the beginning, things were not quite straightforward because we didn't have to bring all the data and more data, where, as Edgar mentioned previously, we have a bunch of data out there from different sources, different teams, activities. So we had to find the data that were meaningful. And this is why I personally tend to like really this slide, because this shows that we need to find what needs to be measured, to be presented, and not everything can be there out there. So our initial idea started quite typical and as a concept to find the right data that we already have, connect them, and present them into a meaningful way. So we started into having a proof of concept around that idea, which again was not a technical, let's say, limitation, rather than, again, organizational. So we had to run quite several meetings out there with data owners, communication experts, even data visualization experts. So to first understand what data are out there around all the teams, then which of those data are meaningful and should be presented, and in the end, how these data should be visualized to the management. So our first, let's say, proof of concept was a pilot dashboard back in 2024 with main technologies of Power BI and SharePoint, which we evolved as we moved, and we will see on the next slides. But it was a great proof of concept. Why? Because it helped, first of all, to show to the users that we can remove from isolated reporting between the teams to a single dashboard that can show different data sources, connect between them, but also showed us all the limitations that we might have in the future and we need to evolve. So we moved forward, and here is where we are more or less now. So we are in a semi-automated information path. The idea that changed, actually, is that we moved from the idea of creating a dashboard to present the things. We understood that we need to create a repeatable data chain, starting from the data source till the end, where we create the products. So this chain starts from the data streams that might be APIs, files, any source of data, and we proceed with the ingestion of the data, where we have schedule refreshes, pipeline controls, and then go into a single source, like the data lake that it's called, that we have raw data that then can be applied, historization, environment handling, and all this better data governance and quality of the data. And what is there on top is the semantic layer where the actual data quality took place, where we have common definitions, KPIs, and business rules. All this into a single, let's say, environment. So, and then on top come the products. The products can be different reported dashboards, analytical reports. So we are there. Now the dashboards become the downstream products of the same trusted data. So this is the big difference, that we have now a single source where we can have some common definitions and we can then create our products. As you can see on the graph, we have still some manual reportings going to the managers or upload them into at least the same environment. So we are there to move into our final, let's say, target, that we will create a full automated data ecosystem. This is more or less what Edgar mentioned previously, with a single source of truth. So the idea is that we get the data, we go ingest them into a single trusted data ecosystem, and then on top of that, all the products can take place, even if it's dashboard or AI applications or anything. So we have the foundations, the data foundations. And what is important here to mention is that we don't take the ownership of the data. Data owners are still there, but we give them a better way so that they can focus on analyzing on the data, getting further insights from the data, since they are now cross-referenced, and that is more or less the final idea, that we have a single trusted data ecosystem where we have better governance, data can be more reusable, and we don't have duplication of the work to analyze again and again. So passing now the floor back to Edgar. Thanks.
Yes. So, indeed, the technical solution becomes the enabler for the business need. And that's really, I think, the driving message for us. The technology is auxiliary to what we need to do. And perhaps a few use cases can really demonstrate how we're envisioning this. And as Alex mentioned, it's still very much an ongoing path. So we're not where we want to be. And in a way, the philosophy is that we're never really where we want to be because there's always a next step to do. But basically, as mentioned, one of the products we have is kind of this environment of different dashboards that will show you a few examples of how we've done a few products. But the other really important use case and transformation for us has been the measurement and evaluation team a bit shifting its role in the organization from being the ones who just monitor and report to really becoming a central intelligence hub that bring together different stakeholders across the organization and enable them to do more with the information they have, but also to break silos, to create new information paths, new insights that were not possible before. So I teased a bit Europe Day before. So this is something that was, just recently, last week, or the week before. And this year we were able to really put to use a lot of the work that has been done before. So we were able to create a automated report that brought together a lot of different data streams. So from events happening across all member states to the open days in Brussels with thousands of visitors coming in, filling in entry-exit surveys, to all of the social media communication surrounding Europe Day across all different channels, advertisement communications. So all of this information was pre-prepared, and when the day came on Europe Day, we were able to update it in a live stream and bring management insights as fresh as they can be. And this was something, I think, for us, a really big kind of proof of concept, how we can create something really specific to an event, to an important moment, and to enable management to have an overview. Another use case we have is what we call the press and media monitoring corner. So we have different media monitoring services across the Commission for different levels of management and political leadership, but we were able to also bring together all different data concerning, for example, the press releases, their performance, audiovisual products, which are the ones that are broadcast across different media in Europe and beyond, different media monitoring news streams, bringing together already pre-analyzed news and bring them together into one space where you can actually filter it across countries, across time, all bringing together the information into a comparable format. So this is something also that is a relatively new product for us and is really a result of having done all the groundwork there. And we can answer here different types of questions about which themes are popping up, which kind of press items are being most visited. Is that correlating actually with what we see in the news? So this is another use case. And a third one we wanted to mention, which is actually a bit of a different angle. So what we've been talking about so far has to do with our own data, so our own performance, how are our different products performing. But then on top of that, we want to start layering also open intelligence, public opinion indicators, indicators and data coming from Eurostat, from economic indicators, all of these things that actually enable the communicators to make decisions and then hopefully see the results afterwards. So we're trying to make this environment service the whole life cycle of a communication product, from inception and objective setting and intelligence to reporting at the end. And this is also something that's been a very important use case for us is to do what we call the country intelligence reports, where we've actually tried to bring together some key indicators across all the member states, but specifically, of course, tailored to what communicators are interested in. So, this is a slide I like to show a lot to our management because we can't get away from talking about AI, of course. So everyone, I don't know if there will be actually any one presentation during this whole summit that won't talk about AI in one shape or another. So of course we have to talk about AI as well. We know that everyone's very excited about AI. Management is very excited about AI. That's why we often end up having to really manage expectations and show this slide, the hierarchy of needs when it comes to data, because it also gives the direction of which we want to travel. So for us, AI is really, as you see, at the top of this pyramid. It's something that augments that which is already there. It's something that can make good things even better, but it can only really be used at an organizational level, at a level of making organizational efficiencies, making new information pathways, making new insights possible when all of the underlying layers have been properly done. So a properly documented data lake, reusable, quality, scalable data, once that is there, then the AI becomes actually an enabler for something much more. And this is different, obviously, than AI for personal productivity, AI for quick wins and so on, which is all very good and well. And of course, we encourage everyone to use all the tools they have available to them to be efficient. But for us, we really see AI as an enabler for organizational efficiency that comes only at the very end of a work well done. So that's why now what we're building and what we're trying to see is the ground truth, the single source of truth, and as mentioned, the positioning of the measurement and evaluation team in a different position, from going of ex post evaluation to saying, okay, how did we do, to actually following the whole cycle of communications, from enabling evidence-based decisions, from historical data, towards being indeed a strategically positioned team that is giving evidence-based advice and converting raw data into decision-ready insights. Some key takeaways then from our presentation today. The main challenge that we had is not a technical one. The technology exists and it can always be worked on. You can get the right people to work with you and you will find it. It's really the governance that is the challenge, to overcome the fragmentation of a larger organization, bring things together. Creating the single source of truth is a key step. This allows for comparability, scalability, for future-ready deployment of quality data. It's not an easy pitch, always, because it requires things to happen in the background that are not necessarily visible immediately, but it really is the key enabler. As mentioned, governance and documentation are key. Again, not the sexiest of topics, but when I saw the first kind of wiki with all of the different data that we have collated, labeled and documented, for me this was kind of the key, the sign that we're really on the right path and we're going from quick wins towards really long-term strategic enabling of a different type of working. Dashboards are wonderful, they're beautiful, but they're only the visible layer. For me, they're still something that we can show that gives a window towards what's underneath, but they're not the end product in themselves. They're only a step towards, again, driving better decisions via insights. And as mentioned, the team really has to reposition itself, and this information pathway creates a new environment and a new decision capacity for measurement and evaluation teams. And I think this was already mentioned in the previous presentation as well. So we really need to see ourselves as strategic advisors, as key enablers of good decisions based on solid data. And this is a bit of a look into the future. So as mentioned, dashboards, they'll still be there. Everyone loves a dashboard, and they're pretty to look at, and they do give good insights. But they're only the first step, and they're not really the final destination. People are expecting AI to be more integrated, including natural language analytics. AI readiness depends on the data governance. As mentioned, it's not a technical challenge. The technology will evolve in a way independent of us, and we need to be ready to be able to exploit it. That means looking into our own shed, organizing it, and making sure that we're ready to use that which is available. Mentioned a few times, the evolution of the team into a different function. This will continue and needs to adapt constantly, and to really take advantage of the technologies, but also the capacities we're building. And then finally, maybe as a sum up, indeed, if you want to survive in the future, especially also as a public sector organization, we have our own, I think, unique challenges. As mentioned, we don't have the single truth KPI of sales numbers. We can't look at that. We have to be much more wide and understanding of what is our impact, what is our comms doing, and how do we actually work with it. So preparing the data foundation is really key for that, to be able to make use of the future. And I think that's it.
Thank you so much, Edgar and Alex. Do we call you Alex or Wizard? Which do you prefer?
Alex, it's fine.
I'm going to take that he's open to both. So if any of you guys decide to call him Wizard, I think he's good with that. Thank you so much for sharing the example. I mean, I know that this has been a journey for you guys, and it's fantastic. I will defer if there's a question from the audience first, but then I have my own. I thought that's why I shouldn't be a hog and take the first one. So let's start with Tim Markline, if we can. Up here in the front, Amelia. Amelia, bring you a mic. As a courtesy to the virtual delegates, please always make sure you have a mic so they can hear your question.
Sounds good. Edgar, this impressive work, but it seems expensive and intensive. So how big was the team that worked on this, and how long did it take to be able to build it out?
No,
No, it's not that.
That's a good question. It is expensive work, of course, but it is also, and that's why I need to always convince management, you need to look at it in terms of the relative expense. So we cost a fraction of the totality of what communication costs. The direct team is maybe a handful of people, like a data scientist, Alex as the data visualization wizard, two project managers. But of course, on top of that is the whole network of data owners and data producers, and that's much wider. So we only add the kind of final layer to bring everything together, but the data owners are really the drivers, in the sense that they're the ones that are producing the data, they're the ones producing the content, they're the ones also oftentimes the ones doing the measuring. So we're not doing the measurement ourselves. There's the social media team who collects social media data. We're just plugging in and bringing it together. So yeah, there's no straightforward answer, unfortunately, but it's both small and big at the same time.
Great, thank you. Jose?
Hi, Jose de Huerva, World Bank. Well, first of all, congratulations. This is incredible work. And working also in a large international organization, I know how difficult it is to do this, so really amazing. So I have a question. You mentioned the semantic layer, and I really like that because it seems to be crucial to really give that context to the data you're collecting and curating. Can you tell us more about that process, how it went about in terms of developing that context layer or semantic layer?
So generally the work is split into three main parts. First, you get all the data, the raw data. Then you have to make the first processing of the data to understand what is there, make a first cleaning of the data, change, maybe apply some data quality things on top. And then we have the gold layer that we call, where we have the final, let's say, common agreement of which of those data that we get, because not all of them are really there to be shown, needs to be taken into account, how they need to be transformed into having become meaningful to be presented on the way that they should monitor, how the upper management would like to see that. And of course, there are, as we have seen, different products. So there is a chance of having, let's say, data up to the silver layer the same, and on top of that, we make different transformations to be applied for the different products. But that's more or less how the pipeline works. So there are 3 layers of processing the data so that you can ensure every time the quality, the same semantic layer, if we could say so, to be applied on the data. Does it? Cool.
Great. Yes, I can see a hand. I can't see who's attached to it, though. Sorry, the light's right in my face. Amelia, if you'll bring the mic. Thank you.
Hi, Matt Thompson from Nokia. Fantastic presentation. Can you tell us about the engagement of your dashboards and your AI insight with users? I mean, how do you grow the engagement? How are you getting on, getting people to use?
Yeah, so that's actually something that we didn't have in the presentation, but is a major part of the work, is actually the cultural change in the organization. So having the product is really just the first step. So what we do a lot also, and what we invest a lot of effort into, is doing a lot of onboarding, coaching, presentations, roadshows, because it's not obvious for people to go to such a product, and especially to see a lot of information and to use it in a way that's really supporting their work. And I think there's also a challenge there that we're still figuring out, because you need a bit of both worlds, in the sense that one thing that can happen, and I think is difficult sometimes to cope with, is that you can create a product and then you end up looking for clients, and it's not necessarily the right way to go about it. So ideally, we want the stakeholders to come and tell us, because I'm not the social media person, I'm not the campaigns person, I can only think about what they need. So I really need them to tell me, well, I actually would benefit from looking into that metric and crossing this data with that data. So that's really the ideal future. But first, you do need to do a bit of kind of showing what's possible, because it's not always obvious to people who don't work in this field what is even possible. So we do need to sometimes create something to kind of demo it, say, look, this is what we could do, and we could do even more. And to build that network, to build that engagement, to build that feedback and kind of stakeholder community that then can feed back to us and we adjust. So it's both ways. Yeah.
Great. We have time for one more question. Amelia, over here on the right-hand side. Molly.
Hi, Stefano from the OECD. Thank you very much for the presentation. Very inspiring. I think we have similar challenges, but we're at the very early stages of developing something similar. 2 very quick questions. The first one is, and I'm sorry if you mentioned it, where are you hosting the semi-automated dashboard? I understand the first one was on Power BI. I think I missed where the second one is hosted. And the second one is you talked about the human costs of doing this and maintaining this, but I'm also curious about any technological costs. Obviously, hosting data is very expensive, and I'm curious about how much that would represent. Thank you.
So in terms of where we're hosting it, it's still, so the overall package is kind of the Microsoft 365 environment. So it's the data lake is, well, Alex will correct me, it's Azure Data Bench. And so the work is being done on that. We're moving into Fabric, which is the next generation of the Microsoft environment. And then Power BI is still the front end, integrated into the SharePoint environment, which is kind of our intranet environment. In terms of the costs, obviously I can't really speak in terms of numbers, but yeah, it's we have to very much also adhere to corporate guidelines. So that's will depend from organization to organization. For us also, we have to take note of certain limitations. So as a public organization, we have to adhere to certain standards when it comes to which technologies we can use, which data we can upload. So for example, all the data that we have there now, it's it's not public data, but it's also not classified or sensitive non-classified data. So there are limitations. We cannot do things that maybe the technology itself would allow. And so those are part of the costs, and eventually we're using kind of corporate solutions that have been developed in the context of for the commission and ready to use. I know I'm avoiding the question a bit, but that's as far as I can go.
Fantastic. A round of applause for Edgar and the Wizard.